This course is presented to you free of charge by TTJ Tech Services of www.ttjtech.biz and by Stir It Up of www.stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with a U, not an I, so that's STURITUP.com. TTJ Tech Services and Stir It Up are pleased to offer this course to you to the glory of God and to the benefit of all those who listen. Well, praise God. Welcome, my friends. Welcome to session number 9 of Voiceover In and Out. We're so glad to have you. So glad to welcome you today. Right now, we're going to get into another app, and this is the calendar. I really feel that it is important to spend some time on the calendar and do it very early, because as people who are blind or visually impaired, as the vast majority of our students are, it's not easy for us to just look over at the refrigerator calendar, right? We have to have a way of keeping our events and our appointments and so on organized, and sighted users do too. But this is an area where I think overall it's a bit of a stereotype, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I apologize if that, but overall we could do better about making sure that we keep track of those things, right? As a general rule, and a lot of us do very well on that, and a lot of you have been using the calendar for a while, especially our longtime students. You've been doing this. But what we found with many of our clients and many of our students is that they'll do really well with using VoiceOver on their devices, say to make phone calls and send messages and so forth, as we've been teaching you. And then they get to the calendars and it's like they're kind of overwhelmed by it. And it's like, I don't know if this app really works that well. Maybe I need a third-party app, or maybe I still need to go back to the old Perkins Brailler or the tape recorder or the Braille note or something. Well, the answer is no to all of that. You don't need to. The calendar app is beautiful and very accessible. But again, as with many of these things, it's just a matter of learning how to properly use it. So we're going to show you that today, and we're going to get started right now. Now, the first thing I'd like to tell you about Apple Calendar is, as you would expect with all of these Apple apps and a lot of third-party apps, it's fully integrated with iCloud. And you remember our iCloud discussion, right? So what that means is if I put an event on one device on the calendar, let's say my iPhone, it automatically syncs to my iPad, my Mac, all these different devices. And I can even ask the HomePod what's on my calendar, and I can ask, of course, I can use the Apple Watch, all these devices, right? And, whenever you make a change on one device, it's reflected on all of them. So that's very important. But I also will point out that the calendar app supports other calendar accounts besides iCloud, and they do their own syncing within their own systems. And these are things like the Google Calendar or the Microsoft Outlook Calendar, for example. Now, as we talked about with contacts, it is very important to know what calendar accounts you have on your devices. And it is our recommendation, again, there's no right or wrong, but it is our suggestion, very strong suggestion, that unless you absolutely need those other third-party calendar services like Google, for example, that you don't use them for calendars, that you strictly stick to iCloud. It's going to make things a lot easier. Again, as we talked about with contacts, we've had students who will come to us and say, my calendar is not syncing. And what they don't realize is that they are using 2 different accounts on 2 different devices. So it appears as though it's not syncing, or they have something hidden and they're just not aware of it. So what we're reminding you is that when you add a Gmail account to your device, or a Microsoft Outlook account, or other kinds of, accounts to your device, even if you add them in the mail settings, not the calendar settings, they still may offer you to do the calendar syncing too, because they have calendar services, right? And so when you add an account like an Outlook account, it's going to show you, okay, which services do you want? There'll be toggles for each of these things. Mail is usually always the first one, but then you'll see, calendar, like Gmail has calendar, contacts, and notes. I turn those off completely for Gmail when I add them, right? I just tap the toggle, double tap, and I turn off calendars, turn off. The only thing I have Gmail for is mail. And by the way, the only reason I even have a Gmail account is because I need it for YouTube, because YouTube is owned by Google or Alphabet, I guess, whatever their parent company is, but that's all one. And so you really need a Google account in order to use YouTube. But I don't want the Google calendars and so on. Now, there are some people, for various reasons, who actually do need them. And one of the more common examples of that, for example, is people who at their workplace, when you go to work and you work at I don't know, let's just make something up. Let's say Mom and Pop's Country Store. Okay, when you work at Mom and Pop's Country Store, they have their own website, right? And then you can email them too, info@momandpops.com or whatever, right? They have their own, so it's not at gmail.com, it's at their own domain. Well, years ago, in order to do that, you used to have your own servers, but that's very expensive. A lot of people, couldn't afford that because you'd have to hire people to maintain those servers and stuff. So what started happening is companies like Google, and actually Apple does it too now with iCloud Plus, but companies like Google offer your own domain if you pay for the service. And with Google, it used to be called G Suite. Now it's just called, I think it's called Google Workspace. And so what a lot of people have is they have a Google Workspace account so that they can have momandpops.com, right? But it's actually going through Gmail. It just doesn't look that way. Well, for example, my wife, as a teacher, the school district that she works for and that our kids go to uses Google for all of their stuff. So they have Google Workspace. Actually, they don't use Google Classroom anymore, but I won't go into all that for the sake of time. But they do use Google for their email and all of that, except they don't have gmail.com email addresses. They have the school district domain. And so in order to get that, they use Google Workspace. Now, what that means for the teachers is they have to have Google Calendar because they, might have a faculty meeting that's scheduled on there. They need to be able to see that. Now, they can download a separate app. They could download the Google Calendar app, but they can also choose to simply integrate it into their Apple Calendar so that it shows up right alongside their family and home events and so on. By adding their Gmail account, it's not going to say Gmail, it's going to say, such and such a school district. It'll show you that it's a Google account, but but it really doesn't have a Gmail domain. So you may not even realize it, but it is. And so consequently, it's adding calendars and so forth like that. Well, if you are in that situation, you need that, right? Because you need that Google stuff to show up on your Apple Calendar so that you have it on your calendar. And so there are valid reasons to enable those third party kinds of accounts. But I think it really is something you ought to consider. Do I really need this? If you don't, disable it. You're going to just save yourself potential hassle, right? If you're going to have those enabled, you really got to understand what you're doing. You got to make sure you know what your defaults are, what's hidden and shown on each device, and where things are going. Now, I used to have Google Calendars added to my Apple Calendar. And the reason I did that was because we have some of these Nest hubs throughout our home. We also have HomePods and Amazon Echoes, but my favorite is the HomePod. And as the HomePod is getting smarter and smarter and more functional and feature rich, the Nest and Amazon Echo devices are slowly becoming less and less relevant. And there will come a time when we probably will sell or give them away. We barely use them now, but there's a couple things we may keep them for. But it just depends on what other smart devices, how things evolve over time too. But for now we'll keep a couple of them, but we really don't use them much. But the Google devices, the Nest hubs, they're smart displays. They allow you to display your calendar events on the screen. And so I thought that seemed cool. And I thought, yeah, if we have something that involves the whole family, I'll put it up there on the screen, like a refrigerator calendar kind of thing, so that they can see it. Well, in order to do that, you had to use Google Calendar, all right? It wouldn't display your Apple Calendar events. And so I had Google added for a while doing calendars on my devices. What I found was I was never using it. It sounded cool in theory, but it was much more important to all of us to have these on our iPhone, our iPads, we could ask the HomePods. And so after a while I disabled Google Calendars. I still have the email because of YouTube, but I went ahead and disabled the calendar because I just don't use it. I had no need for it, and it just was more of a theoretical thing than something that we actually used. So keep it simple is the philosophy, right? If you can keep it simple, do that, and eliminate the potential for various issues that could arise. Now, if you have to have these enabled, again, don't worry. It's not something you need to stress about. You just need to understand it. Okay. So we're going to focus on the way the app functions and how to add events. And we're going to assume you have your accounts worked out already. Within each kind of calendar account, like iCloud, for example, you can have multiple calendars. You can have home, work, whatever you want to call them. And you can have shared calendars. If you use family sharing, you automatically get a family calendar. Any events that are added to the family calendar can be seen, of course, by the whole family on all of their devices. You can also create other calendars that you share with any people that you choose to share them with. And you can even make public calendars that people can subscribe to. These are read-only calendars that your subscribers are not going to be adding events, but they're able to have their events on the calendar. And a great example of this is like a soccer team or, some sort of sports team that has practices and you want to put the games and the practices on the calendar. And so the parents and the students the kids can subscribe to the calendars that way. So all of these things are supported. You get a U.S. holidays calendar. There's a lot of great stuff. Now, when you add events to your calendar, you're going to see that there's so many options that we have. We can have recurring events, custom recurrences. We can have various alerts. We can have just a whole bunch of things that I'm going to describe as we go through them. And again, always finding that balance between teaching voiceover and teaching the app, right? No possible way we can teach everything. You need to play with this, and we're going to have a lab on Wednesday. The newest feature to be added here in iOS 18 is the integration of reminders into the calendar. Now, we're going to learn about reminders next week. We're going to teach you all about reminders. It's a great app. It functions separately from calendar, and there are different purposes for each. My favorite use of the reminders app is the grocery list feature, but we'll get to that next week, praise God. But there is a degree of integration between the two apps when you have scheduled reminders that you want to be reminded at a certain date and time. Those also now go on the calendar, and so you're going to see that as well.
For calendar, Monday, November 4th, 3 new notifications. Double tap to open.
These 3 notifications that it's talking about are invitations to various events that I need to double check on and reply to, and so we'll show you where that is as well. So I'm going to open the calendar.
Calendar 2024 back button.
And as you can hear, I am immediately taken to the upper left corner of the screen where there is a back button. This app is sort of set up like a list app because you have your calendar on the screen. You can actually display your events in a list, or you can see the dates and different views, and I'll show you that in a moment. You may see different things if you're in portrait or landscape mode, but in this particular demonstration, we're going to stay in portrait mode because we're teaching on the iPhone. If we were using an iPad, I would stay in landscape, but either one you can use in both orientations. It's just we haven't even talked about that really in this class, but holding your phone vertically, with the bottom USB-C port or lightning port or whatever on the bottom edge, that's portrait mode. And if you want to play with landscape, by all means, you can do that on your own time. This app does have sort of tabs at the bottom, but they're kind of like buttons. Just let me tap at the bottom left.
Toolbar, today, button.
Okay, see, they actually call it a toolbar. Today, that's immediately going to take you to today's date. So if you've scrolled away to other dates or something, that'll quickly jump you back to today. And then to the right,
calendars, button.
And that I'll show you in a moment.
Inbox 3 button.
Those are my invites I talked about.
Inbox
and that's
3.
it. So they don't really call this a tab bar, but it is kind of like that. But these buttons are more for just these quick things that you need to do. If you were to go, say, to the calendars button, which is the second one.
Calendars button.
What this does is it brings up the list of all of the calendars that we have, including multiple calendar accounts, but I don't have multiple calendar accounts enabled, but I do have multiple calendars within iCloud. So let me show you this.
Calendars, heading.
Now, I'm taken to the top left.
Calendars, heading.
And you notice if I swipe right,
Done button.
There is a done button where I can get out of this screen and back to the calendar. That's why these aren't exactly tabs, because you're not really going to another tab. You're going to kind of a a panel, a screen, a menu, whatever, and then you can hit done to get out of it. But let's go to the right.
iCloud button expanded.
And you hear that
double tap to collapse.
If
Actions available.
So it's expanded. If I wanted to collapse it, I could. But if I go to the right, I'm going to see all of my iCloud calendars now.
Selected. Home. Selected. TTG training. Public and shared with clip. Selected. Family. Shared with. Selected. Work. Selected. TTG team. Shared. Selected. Bedford County Faith Summit. Public calendar. Other. Button. Expanded.
Okay. And that's it. So I have a bunch of calendars. Home. Work, family, which is shared with my wife and kids, the TTJ training calendar, which is shared with Cliff and Sarah, and the TTJ the TTJ team calendar, I think it was called, which is shared with Cliff and Sarah, and then the TTJ training calendar, which is actually a public calendar that you can subscribe to get public events, but it's also shared with our team. I have one for our Bedford County Faith Summit, which is a Christian event we do every summer, and there were, some different things in there. You notice they're all selected, and that's good because that means that their events will show and I will get their notifications. If you deselect one of these calendars, you will not see its events on your calendar, nor will you get notifications for a particular event that's on that calendar, okay? So if you want to make sure you get all your notifications, you want to keep all your calendars showing. Now, there's usually, I think, if I deselect these, there might be a show all button that appears, but I have them all shown anyway. It doesn't matter. You can just select them. You notice the next section, which is also expanded, was Other.
Other button expanded.
Now,
double tap to collapse.
If we swipe to the right here.
Selected. U.S. holidays. Subscribed. Selected. Scheduled reminders. Selected. Birthdays. Selected. Series suggestions. Show declined events. Switched button. Off. Show completed reminders. Switched button. On. Toolbar. Add calendar.
Okay, and then down at the bottom.
Toolbar. Add calendar. Button. Hide all. Button.
And yeah, okay,
all.
so there's where that button would be. If it needed to say show all, it would. Mine says hide all because they're all showing. But notice there's an option there to add a calendar. So we can add another new calendar if we want to create something. Again, this is not an event. This is an entire calendar, which could hold multiple events, and so we could add a calendar here in this screen. Remember that button. Listen again.
Add calendar button.
All right, the other thing I want to point out is some of those things that were under the other category. U.S. holidays, you heard birthdays. It is very important to understand how birthdays work because a lot of people will go into their calendar app and they'll add mom's birthday and they'll put it on their home calendar or something. You really don't, that's not really the correct way to do it. I mean, that's fine if you do that, but the correct way to do it is to add the person's birthday within their contact card. And you remember we showed that to you, I guess it was almost 2 weeks ago now, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. We showed you how to add create contact cards, and there's so many different fields, and birthday was one of them. If you add a person's birthday in their contact card, it automatically gets put on this birthdays calendar. So that's a very important little note for you. Also, you heard under other, you heard something called scheduled reminders. Remember I told you that if you have a reminder in the Reminders app that has a date and a time associated with it, it will integrate with the calendar. That's how it integrates with the calendar, because it automatically puts it on this scheduled reminders calendar. So not all reminders go to the calendar app, but ones that have an alert for a specific date and time, or at least a specific date, will have an entry in the scheduled reminders calendar. And I'll show you that you're even able to create those reminders from within the calendar app. And then the other one that you heard is Siri suggestions. This is really cool. If you are talking to somebody in a message conversation or an email or something, and you make a statement like, let's have lunch tomorrow at noon. Well, that is going to become a Siri suggestion that you can add to your calendar. Or if you get an email with, let's say, a flight confirmation or train tickets or hotel reservation confirmation, and it has the dates of your stay, your reservation, those will get added to the calendar as a Siri suggestion as well. And then you can add them to another calendar if you want, but even as Siri suggestions, they will show up and they'll cause notifications and so on. The last thing I want to show you in this screen is that these items are actionable too. I don't know if you remember hearing it say actions available, but let me show you, for example, the one of these iCloud calendars.
Selected TTG training, public and shared with Cliff Antonio Miller.
Now, this is a shared calendar. It's a public calendar, and most importantly, though, I want to show you that if you swipe up or down on it, you have rotor items.
More info. Activate default more info.
Okay, what more info allows you to do? And for the sake of time and not overwhelming you, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I just want to point out that the more info section is where you decide if you want to share a calendar or if you want to make it public. You can invite people to the calendar, and then you can also make it a public calendar where it will create a link for you that you can give people. You can post that link on your Facebook or, whatever you want to do. If you have a website, or just share it by, messages or mail. And that is how you can share a calendar with individual people and as a public calendar. Remember, public calendars are read-only for the subscribers, so that random people aren't making changes. Ones that you share privately, you can decide, but usually everybody accesses. I think you can decide, but normally everybody can add, like our family calendar, anybody can add stuff to that that's in our family. So those are private shares as opposed to public ones. But that's where you do that under more info. The other thing you have under more info is you have, like, you can choose the color of the calendar and some different options like that. So I would encourage you to take a look at that on your own time. And on Wednesday in the lab day, we will maybe let you give you that as a suggestion of something to try as well. I don't want to go through all the options because, as I said, I think there's a fine line between giving you information. I'm always so committed to giving you, and so passionate about giving you as much information as I can, because I feel like a lot of people don't do that. Okay, that's not meant to be a criticism of other trainers. I pray God's blessing upon them. I know Jesus loves them, and a lot of them do a great job. But in my opinion, there tends to be a general lack of this information. It's like they show you the most basics, right? They show you how to make a call and how to send a message, but they don't show you all these other cool features. And I think that's especially true for voiceover users. I think it's true for sighted users as well. I've had so many people, both non-sighted and sighted, come up to me and say, you have more in your curriculum than any other class we've ever had. It's the most comprehensive, and I give all the glory to God for that, okay? But as with all good things, but it, so I'm not boasting, but it's just, except boasting in the Lord, as Paul said. But I just, that's what they say. They say yours is the most comprehensive course, more things we've learned in here than anywhere else. And I have sighted users even who say, I didn't know I could do that. I don't know half of the stuff I could do. So I'm so passionate, and Sarah and Cliff too, about showing you all these things. But I also have to realize you're not going to remember every single thing I show you. So I more want you to get the idea that it can be done. And then, because you know the predictable patterns and the fundamentals, you can figure out how to do it later. So I'm telling you that if you go into calendars and you find a calendar and then swipe up or down on it, you'll see that more info. And in there is how you can share a calendar, make it public, change the color, and do other things that you can look at on your own time. So many things that we can do there. Now I'm going to go up and hit the done button.
More info. Done button.
Which is on the upper right.
Cap selected. TT done button. 2024 back button.
And so I'm now on the calendar again. And if I swipe to remember, I'm at the top left. That back button, is always at the upper left, predictable patterns, right? If I go to the right,
list button.
There's a list button.
Search button.
A search button.
Add button.
And an add button. The list, they're pretty self-explanatory, I think, but list will present an actual list of your events to you instead of a calendar view. The search button allows you to search for events. And the add button, of course, is going to allow you to add events, and we'll look at that in a few moments. Now, before I do anything else, I want to point out that you can use SIRI for a lot of this stuff. And you it becomes personal preference. I am actually a huge fan of SIRI, and I really have to say that she has gotten incredibly smart. I actually think she's leaps and bounds smarter just within the past few weeks. And I meant to have, and I forgot to follow through and do it. I meant to have my daughter, who's still running 18.1, like probably most of the rest of you, um, because she would like to be running 18.2, but so far it's developer only, and she's not old enough to have a developer account yet. Um, so she's still running 18.1, and I meant to have her ask some of these really deep questions and get an answer to see if it's 18.2 that made SIRI that smart, or if it just really is already growing that much anyway. Because I'd like to show some of it to you just for fun. But when you're using, so I'm a big fan of SIRI, but when you're using her to add events to your calendar, you're going to lose some of the granular control of what you can do in the app. So I encourage people to really learn the app and add events to the calendar using the app. Or if you want to add them using SIRI, then just go back in and see what all of your other options are afterwards, right? But you can use her, and not only can you use her to add events, but you can use her to, do things like this. Let me try this once. What's on my calendar for tomorrow?
Tomorrow you have 6 events. Here's the first 3. All day tomorrow, Election Day. From 11:15 a.m. to 12:15 p.m., you have Joseph Thompson training, and from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m., you have Tuesdays with TTJ. Want to hear the last 3?
No, thanks.
From 2 p.m. to 4 p.m.
And actually, that training that I have in the morning is not on that day anymore. We do it on a different day, but I never deleted that, I guess. But you heard that we have, you heard election day, and you heard the Tuesdays with TTJ on the calendar and so forth. And so that's one way that you can add, that you can use SIRI. You can say, what's on my calendar tomorrow, or, for a specific date or something. You can also ask when the name of an event is, as long as you're pretty close to the accurate name. And I think as Apple Intelligence grows, it'll probably get even more flexible. But, so I can say, when is church on my calendar?
Church at Christ Victory Church is scheduled for 10 a.m. Sunday.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Don't you enjoy that enhanced Siri voice in 18.1 and beyond? I really like it, praise God. But anyway, you hear that I have these things on the calendar. So if you know the name, or, when is my dentist appointment or whatever, you can, as long as you've put it on the calendar, you can ask those kinds of things. Later on in the iOS 18 release cycle, it's going to become even smarter, that just from like an email, like if you got an email saying, let's say, or you got a message, let's say, and it was like maybe your mom emailed you and said, my flight gets in at 1 p.m. Make sure you're there to pick me up. You'll be able to ask, when is my mom's flight getting in? And you won't even have to, have it on your calendar. But that's later, probably in the spring. But, even for now, you can ask the kinds of questions that I demonstrated, and certainly you can ask her to add things to the calendar. Now, the next thing I'd like to show you is how to add events to your calendar, and then I'll come back and show you how to use the calendar to find events that you already have, and just explore the calendar itself, right? So let's go into this add button.
Add button.
Upper right corner of the screen. Double tap.
Text field is edited. Text field is editing. Title. Character mode. Insertion point at start.
Now what we just heard is this is the event title field, but I want to swipe to the left because I want to show you something first.
Reminder button 2 of 2. Selected event button 1 of 2. Add dimmed button. New heading cancel button. New
Okay,
cancel.
so I swiped through several things. I was swiping left to go backwards. At the very upper left is the cancel button.
Cancel button.
To the right,
New heading.
you just have this title new, and then now to its right is the
add dimmed button.
And that's in the upper right.
Add dimmed button.
Notice it's grayed out right now, or dimmed, because we haven't added any information, so there's nothing to add. But look to the right of that.
Selected event button.
I think
1
that's
of 2.
probably on the next row, actually. But it said event and then
Reminder button. 2 of 2.
so you now have the ability to add scheduled reminders using the calendar app. If you're already in there, you can just do it here. We're going to wait and show you reminders next week in the actual reminders app, but know that you can add scheduled reminders using the calendar app. We are on event. That's what's selected.
Selected event button. 1 of
And
2.
so it is time to go to the right.
Text field is editing. Title. Character. Text field
And that is,
editing.
it says
Title.
title. Okay. The title of your event. What is this event called? And what we would do is we would type the name of the event in here. So let's just put a name in here so we have something to work with. Let's say I'm going to have a business lunch with Cliff and Sarah, and that would be a lot of fun. So we'll go ahead and type that in here. Business. I should capitalize. Lunch.
Lunch space.
Okay, now I have.
So reminder text field is editing. Business lunch. Character mode.
I have business lunch in my edit field for title. It's probably going to suggest, let me go to the right.
Clear text button. Business lunch today from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m.
So it is suggesting to me an event based on something I've had in here in the past, even though 12 p.m. is past already, but it would make some selections already for me and I could change them if I wanted to. It's trying to just be helpful, and different things you type will yield different suggestions. They may have locations included, they may not, but you know, we are going to skip over that and do this ourselves. You could double tap on those, but
location or video call.
Okay. So the next option you have is you have location or video call. In this field, you're either going to put, if it is a video call for a FaceTime, if you've made a link or you have a Zoom call or something, you will actually put the join link in the location field. And that's very important because if you want people to be able to join the event right from their calendar, you have to put the URL in the location field. So when you get a Zoom join link, you put it in there. But if this is an in-person event, you can also put an address in there, or you can even search for a place. So let's do that. Let's go into this location.
Search field is editing. Enter location or video call. Character.
And you heard it say pretty much what I just said. Enter location or video call. Where do we want to have our business lunch? Well, I'll tell you what. I think we should have our business lunch at Applebee's. So I'm going to search for Applebee's. I'm going to type a few letters. I don't know how many letters I'll need to type, but let's go up to the top of the screen above the keyboard.
Location cancel. Search field. Clear text. Apple. Current location. Recents. Heading. Applebee's Grill Plus Bar. 317 West Plank
Okay,
Road.
that is the one I want. If I keep going, it's going to have map results. It's going to have results from my contacts. It's going to have all sorts of things. But that is already the one I want because, praise God, this is pretty smart. So we're going to double tap on that.
Selected. Cancel button.
And it puts the actual address in there, which is going to be very helpful in just a few minutes, as you'll soon see. So we swipe to the right.
Select remind business lunch. Applebee's Grill Plus Bar. 317 clear text. All day. Switch button. Off.
All right, is this
Double tap to toggle setting.
an all-day event? Well, I'm sure that Cliff and Sarah and I could sit and talk all day, but we have other things to do, so it's not going to be an all-day event. So we're going to leave that deselected, and we're going to go to the right.
Starts 2 p.m. November 4th, 2024.
Okay, now, there are some people who use the calendar a bit differently than this. They find the date of their event first, and they select it, and then they hit the add button. The add screen that we're in will default to whatever is currently selected. I didn't do it that way. I just went to the add button first, so it has the current time selected for the start. Of course, we need to change that. Now, I want to let you listen to that again.
Starts 2 p.m. November 4th, 2024.
Okay, I want you to understand something. That is strictly informational. That is not a button, and you do not need to double tap it. You used to have to, years ago, the way the calendar used to function, but not anymore. That is just information. What you need to do is swipe past it to the right.
November 4th, 2024. Button. Collapsed.
There's the date picker.
Double tap to expand.
And to the right of it,
2 p.m. Button. Collapsed. Double tap to expand.
there's the time picker. So let's start with the date picker. Let's swipe to the left and go back and see how this thing works.
November 4th, 2024. Button. Collapsed.
Double tap.
November 4th, 2024. Expanded.
Okay, let's go to the right and see what we are dealing with.
2 p.m. Button.
Okay,
Collapsed.
we're going to skip that because that's the time. Go to the right.
Month. November 2024. Button. Adjustable. Double tap to change month and year. Swipe up or down with one finger to adjust the value.
So you heard a lot of really interesting stuff there. First of all, you heard button adjustable, which is kind of weird, right? Because how can it be adjustable and be a button? Well, it actually is. I don't know what Apple would call this. I like to call it a hybrid element, meaning it's more than one thing. It acts as a button, but it also acts as a value adjuster, a date picker. And why would anyone want to have that? Well, it's very simple. If I swipe up or down on this, it's going to change the selected month of the event. And that's fine. You will hear if I swipe up.
December 2024. January 2025.
Go back down.
November 2024.
You see what it's doing. It's changing the months, right? But what if my event occurs in March of 2026, not next year, not 2025, but a year from that, 2026. Does that mean I'm going to have to swipe up through every single month? And the answer is no. If I double tap that, it becomes a month and a year picker. You can swipe left and right so that there's a separate year picker and you can change the year. In this case, I'm not going to do that. My lunch with Cliff and Sarah is in November, we're going to say. So we're just going to keep swiping now to the right.
Friday, November 1st, button. Saturday, Sunday, selected. Today, Monday, November 4th.
You can see that I swipe to the right to go from day to day in this event. But now what if my event is on like November the 19th? Does that mean I have to swipe to the right?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday.
And keep doing that each time?
Friday.
And again, the answer is no. There's going to be an easier way. And I'd like to introduce you to vertical navigation in the rotor. We actually talked about it briefly at the beginning of the course. Vertical navigation takes you directly below the current item or directly above the current item when you swipe up or down with one finger. This is very useful in this calendar view because when you go down by one, you are actually going down by 7 days. And when you go up, obviously you're going back by 7 days. So what did I say? This event is on let's say it's on the 20th. So what I'll do is my first date on the calendar is the 1st.
Friday, November 1st, button.
I'm going to set the rotor to vertical navigation.
Live recognition. See character. Light toggle vertical navigation.
There we go. Now, when I swipe down, you're going to notice it's going to go from the 1st to the 8th.
Friday, November 8th.
Down again.
Friday, November 15th, button.
And I'll even go down one more time.
Friday, November 22nd.
Now,
button.
I said the event was on the 20th, so now all I have to do is swipe to the left twice, and it will put me back on the 20th.
Wednesday, November 20th, button.
Now I double tap.
Selected. Wednesday, November 20th.
Now, the other good part of this is I can swipe up a couple times to get back to the beginning of the month, and then go left to go to the time picker, because we've now selected the start date of this lunch. Now, you can also explore this by touch, but I think the vertical navigation is the most efficient way to do it, personally. So we're going to go back up 3.
When month, November 2000.
And there you are. Now I'm going to go to the left.
2 p.m. Button. Collapsed.
There's my time picker.
Double tap to expand.
So we're going to double tap.
2 p.m. Expanded.
Go to the right.
2 o'clock. Picker item.
Well, it's at 12 o'clock, so let's go down.
12 o'clock. 12 of 12.
And then let's go to the right.
00 minutes. Picker item.
There's the minute picker if we swipe up.
05, 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Let's say our lunch starts at 12:15. And then go to the right.
PM. Picker item.
That's a picker. Also, you swipe down for AM and swipe up for PM. I think you can still also type a time if you double tap on these pickers. I think that may still work. I haven't done that in a long time. You used to be able to type either a 1 or 2-digit hour and then a 2-digit minute without anything in between. And so that way you could have smaller intervals than the 5 minutes, but well, let's just try it.
15 minutes.
Double tap
Picker
here.
item. Minutes. 15 minutes.
Okay,
Adjustable.
so it brought up,
4.
it did bring up a keypad. So let's say that our lunch is at 12:01.
1.
Let's see.
1.
1,
2.
2. Let's say our lunch is at 12:07.
0.
Why would it be?
7.
I don't know.
Delete.
And we don't have. Do we have a delete button? Do we have anything else?
Delete.
Maybe
1. Notes. Selected.
Okay.
Event. Cleared. All. Stop. November 12:07 p.m.
Yeah,
But
so that works. You don't have to hit done or anything. Do not overthink that. Don't try to move the voiceover cursor. Don't try to put a colon or anything. Just a 1-digit hour if it's, 1 through 9, or a 2-digit hour if it's, 10, 11, or 12, and then a 2-digit minute. So like 1 o'clock would be 100. But if it's 1 o'clock, you probably don't need to do that because you can just use the pickers, right? But I did want to show you that you can actually bring up a keypad if you need a more granular time. The pickers will do 5-minute intervals, and so that's usually fine, right, for most events. But our lunch, because we like to be Cliff has to have 12:07, right? I have to pick on Cliff a little bit. So our lunch starts at 12:07. Now
12:05 p.m.
Notice this shows that it's at 05, but
05,
it's not.
12:07 p.m.
It tells me that it's at 12:07. All right, let's go to the right of this.
p.m. Picker item.
And remember, if you need to change that to AM, you're going to swipe down. Go to the right.
Time zone. New York. Button.
And you may or may not have that showing up there depending on your settings, but that is the correct time zone if they're coming here to have lunch. So let's go to the right.
Ends 1:07 p.m.
Okay.
November 20th, 2024.
When does it end? Now, you can change the default duration of events in your calendar settings. I think that's a relatively new feature, but you can. But the default duration right now is 1 hour. I know our lunch is going to take more than that. So I'm going to go to the right.
November 20th, 2000.
We're not going to change the date, but we are going to change the end time.
1:07 p.m. Button.
So let's double tap
1:07
to expand.
p.m.
Go to the right.
1 o'clock.
Let's say it's going to end at 2.
2 o'clock. 2 of 12.
And go to the right.
7 minute. 9 minute. 10 minute. 11.
Notice this one's going minute by minute now, probably because I did that other one, at a weird time. So what I can also do is double tap, hold, and slide up to go more quickly.
30 minutes.
And I landed kind of where I wanted to.
34 minutes. 30 minutes.
So
2 o'clock. 30 minutes. PM. Picker item.
So our lunch is about 2.5 hours long, and that's what I wanted to put, 2:30 as the ending time. All right, next up, we're going to keep swiping to the right.
Time zone. New York. Travel time. None. Button.
Okay, you remember we put the location of the event in here? So we're going to add some travel time so that I know exactly when I need to leave. Now, the really cool thing about the travel time is it includes current real-time traffic conditions. And so that's really, really useful. So let's double tap on travel time.
Travel time. None. Add travel time for this event to your calendar.
All right, up at the...
Event alerts will take this time into account, and your calendar will be blocked during this time.
Isn't that cool? Up at the upper left is...
New event. Back button.
The back button, but go to the right.
Travel time. Heading. Travel time. Switched button. Off.
We need to turn it on.
Double tap to toggle setting.
Double tap.
On.
Now go to the right.
Starting location. 41.
And that's my address. It shows my address there. I could double tap on that if I want a different starting location. It actually should use my current location anytime I have a travel time. It should know that, but this is the starting location. I think it does, though, if I'm not mistaken, update to where you are, I think. But you do pick a starting location here. And when you double tap that, you can choose current location. You can choose to put in an address as your starting location, whatever. Well, let's go to the right now.
Select a starting location to automatically determine travel time, or select a time below.
All right, now go to the right.
Selected. Based on location, 45 minutes.
And that's what I want. Based on location, it's going to take me 45 minutes to drive there. Let's go to the right.
Based on location, 4 hours, 20 minutes.
That's how long it would take me to walk there. So I'm going to leave this on the 45 minutes. Now, it's 45 minutes right now. When that lunch actually comes, it might be 40 minutes. It might be 50 minutes. You know, again, they're using the real-time traffic information, but everything is set the way I want. So I'm just going to go back.
New event. Back.
And you'll see now
invitees.
that
repeat travel time. 45 minutes. Button.
45 minutes is already there. So let's go to the right and see what else we have in this particular screen.
Repeat. Never. Button.
Okay, I talked to you about recurring events. So I want you to take a listen to some of these options. I'm going to double tap on this.
Never. Button.
And repeat never is the one that we have right now.
Selected. Never.
Let's go to the right.
Every day. Button. Every week. Button. Every 2 weeks. Every month. Every year. Button.
So without any extra work, we can just pick one of these if the event occurs every week, every 2 weeks, every day, all these options, right? And those are probably your most common things that, you know, are going to recur. But there are some events that have weird recurrence patterns, right? And that's where
Custom. Button.
this last option,
Dismiss context
well,
menu.
dismiss context
Button.
is the last option, but
Custom. Button.
custom comes in. Now, again, here we're going to start to straddle that line of overwhelming if we go too far. But I just want to show you this because I want to show you that it can be done. And then I'm going to encourage you to play with it when and if you need it. But I don't want to overwhelm you, but I really do want you to see the power of this. So let's go into this custom option.
Custom. Frequency. Daily. Button.
All right, the first
Custom. Head. Frequency.
option you have is daily. And if I want to change that, I'm going to double tap on it.
Daily. Button. Weekly. Monthly. Yearly. Dismiss context menu.
Right.
Button.
So let's say, for example, weekly.
Monthly. Weekly. Button.
Okay.
Event will occur every week.
All right, so far. But now,
Frequency. Weekly. Button.
go to the right.
Every week.
And that's a
Every week. 1. Pick her item. Adjustable. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
see, we can change that. Look what has
4,
happened,
3. Event will occur every 3 weeks.
right? So we now have an event that occurs every 3 weeks. Go to the right.
Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, selected, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
So I can even say that it occurs every Wednesday and Saturday.
Selected, Saturday, selected, Wednesday.
Listen now.
Sunday. Event will occur every 3 weeks on Wednesday and Saturday.
Right? So you're getting the idea. Again, I could show you so much more of this, but I don't want to overwhelm you. What I want you to see is this is really powerful, and you can almost have anything maybe you might find some weird exception where you still need to create 2 separate recurring events or something. But in most cases, you're going to be able to find a recurrence pattern that's going to work for your event. You just need to look through all the options, double tap on each thing to see what it brings up, and then, you know, keep swiping to see what else. Let's do one more.
With 3, every frequency, weekly.
Let's do monthly.
Daily, month.
Okay.
Event will occur every 3 months. Months. Pick her item. Adjustable. 3. Pick her item.
We're gonna make that every
2 of 900. Every 1. Pick month.
Now it says every 1 month, but now go to the right.
Event will occur every month. Selected. Each. On the.
So you have 2 choices: each or on the. Each gives you
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
in other words, the date of the month. But if you go to on the
selected, on the first, pick her item, second, third, fourth, fifth, next to last, last, 7 at last.
And that's not saying what date of the month. It's saying like on the first, like we're going to go back to on the second.
Third, second.
Go to the right.
Sunday, pick her item, Monday, Tuesday.
So now the event occurs every month on the second Tuesday.
1. Every frequency, monthly, custom, heading, new event, 1 month. Event will occur every month on the second Tuesday.
See? So you need to play with this, right? You can see there's a lot of options. I'm going to...
New event, back but custom, heading, new event, back...
I'm going to...
Repeat, custom, button.
Change it to never.
Never, button.
Now, if you had...
Business lunch.
If you had chosen a recurrence pattern, though, even a custom one, you're going to see then, even with the custom, you should still see this. You're going to see an option that says end repeat. So let's say I picked monthly for this.
Repeat, never. never, every day, every week, every 2 weeks, every month, button.
Now look here.
November 2, their calendar. And repeat, every month, button. And repeat, never, button.
And you will either pick never or on a date. So, if we're having lunch every month during the training season, but not during the off season, we could say that the repeat ends, in the May 31st or whatever, so we can do all those. We can have an end to the repeat, or it's just indefinite unless we delete it. Then let's go to the right.
Calendar, home, button.
All right, which calendar does this event get added to? My default is the home calendar. You can change that in your settings. If I want the whole family to be part of this, I could go in here.
iCloud. Selected, home, TTJ training, family, shared with Carson Wade Volbrecht end, button.
And there's two others. I could add it to the family calendar. This is actually for Cliff and Sarah, so I could add it to
TTJ training, work, TTJ team, shared with Lit.
That's right. It's the TTJ team calendar. I could add it to that. And double tapping any of these will bring you back to the screen, or you can dismiss the context menu. And then the next one.
Invitees, none, button.
So if you have invitees that are not part of a shared calendar and you want to still invite them, you're going to double tap on this, and it's going to give you the option to add invitees by email. If it is possible, if you know or can find out the Apple account email of the person or people that you are inviting, that's going to be the best choice. And I believe when you start typing, it shows search results from your contacts and stuff as well. But again, if you can add the Apple account email address, that's going to be the best option, because what that will do is it will automatically add it to their calendar in the inbox. Remember my inbox said 3, and I told you there were 3 invites in there? That's how that happens. And so when you know somebody's Apple account email address and you invite them, they get a notification from their calendar. Matthew has invited you to business lunch on whatever date. You can accept, decline, all of those things. If you send it to an email address that's not associated with an Apple account, it will come to that person as an email, and they should have links in the email to reply with accept or decline or whatever. So it should still work, but the best option is if you know the Apple account email. All right.
November and
so
2, the calendar, invitees, none, button.
And it'll show you then whether they've responded and how. Go to the right.
Alert, default, 1 day before, button. Second alert, time to leave, button.
You can have 2 alerts, and you can choose when they happen. You can customize your default alert times for different kinds of events, also under your calendar settings. My default alert time for events is 1 day before, and I also have the time to leave event alert turned on. So as long as I have a location and a starting location for the event, I will get the time to leave alert, and it is on. And I can change these if I want to be alerted at different times. All right, let's go to the right.
Add attachment, button.
Maybe there's an attachment that I want everybody to have concerning this event, some sort of a PDF we're going to look at together or something while we're eating lunch. I can attach that right here in the calendar directly to the event.
Attachments will be applied to all recurrences.
And because there are recurrences, well, it might tell you that anyway, but you just be aware of that.
URL, text field.
There's the URL field. Now, I showed you before the location field, and I said if you're going to do a video call, you need to put the URL in the location field, not the URL field. Some people put it in both, but you could also use this URL for other things. Maybe there's a website we're going to look at together, whatever. So I can put that here. And then...
Notes, text field, notes.
And that's it. I can add notes concerning the event. Now, when I'm ready, at the top right...
Add button.
Is my add button. This saves the event and adds it to the calendar. Upper left,
cancel button.
That discards the event.
Cancel alert. Are you sure you want to discard this new event? Discard changes, but keep editing button. Discard
and it
calendar
does not save it. Okay, so now we've learned how to add events. The last thing I want to show you for today before we go to Cliff and Sarah and your questions is I want to show you now how to use the calendar once you've added stuff. I already showed you that you can ask SIRI, and for a lot of people that's probably the easiest. When is my business lunch? When's my, you can do those kinds of things. What's on my calendar for tomorrow? And if you have a HomePod, my favorite thing to ask the HomePod about that is, what's my update? It tells you about the weather for today, events and reminders, and even gives you the news from your favorite news source. But if I want to actually use the calendar, Right now, what I have here
2000 add button.
to the right,
November. Months. Friday, November 1st. Saturday, Sunday, November 3rd. Selected. Today, Monday, November 4th.
so this is a calendar view day by day, and I think if I do let me just try this. If I double tap on this, like let's say this is Tuesday.
Selected. Tuesday.
There's Tuesday.
November.
Tomorrow. If I double tap.
Selected. Tuesday, November 5th.
It says, and listen.
Today.
Listen.
Wednesday. Selected. Tuesday, November 5th. 6 events. Button.
At the
double tap to view events on this day.
Okay.
More content available.
Now, there might be some shortcuts. I don't do it this way a lot, I'll be honest, but there are a couple of different things in the rotor.
Live recognition, more content, live toggle, live vertical nav headings.
Your vertical navigation.
Contain screen word more content.
And
characters.
You could use, but if I just touch the lower part of the screen, I know.
Take my pill, TTJ Tech check. Tuesdays, Joseph Thompson. Tuesdays with TTJ.
See, I know those events are there, and it will tell me when they are.
Tuesdays with TTJ, 2 p.m. 0 to web.zoom.
And if I want to see more details about this event, I can double tap on it.
Tuesdays with TTJ. Date, Tuesday, November 5th.
Now, at the upper left,
November, back button.
There's a back button. At the upper right,
edit button.
There's an edit button if I want to edit this event. But in between, swipe to the left.
Event details, heading.
It says event details.
November.
So if I go back to the right.
Event edit, but Tuesdays with TTJ. Date, Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. Time, from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m.
And because
Swipe up or down to select a custom action.
Exactly. Because I have the URL in the right place, when I swipe up and down,
join.
There's a join button. I can immediately join this right here by double tapping that.
Share.
I can share the link.
Activate.
And
default.
I can activate, right? So that's how easy that is. We go back to the upper left.
November, back button.
Now, we're in November.
Months.
If I go back,
2024, back button.
I'm going to expand this view, and I'm going to see different months, and I can select a different month. And if I get way off, I want to go back to today. Remember that today button at the bottom left of the screen. I also can rotate this to landscape mode to get, I think, even more choices and certainly a bigger view. But another thing that I can do is I can use the list option.
List button.
That's just to the right of the back button.
Compact button. Stacked button. Details button. Selected. List button. Dismiss context menu. Selected. Selected. List.
Okay.
Joseph Thompson.
What happens now?
2000 list button. Search. Election day. Joseph. Tuesdays with TTJ. TTJ Tech check. Take my pill. Do some kind. Toolbar. Today.
See, now it's just showing the whole list.
List button.
Of
search. Add. November.
Events. Now notice that
months. Friday,
we still
Tuesdays
have
with TTJ 2 p.m. Zoom. Joseph election months. Saturday.
We still have these dates up here. So
add search list.
If we go back to the list,
compact,
and we choose like a compact view.
Compact. Months. Monday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday. December 17th. Add but November. Months. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, November 3rd.
Now if I pick one of these.
So Tuesday. Events. Election day. Add button.
What you now have.
November. List. Search. Add. Events. Elections. Joseph Thompson. Tuesdays with TTJ Tech. Take my pill. Do some cop. Wednesday. November 6th.
So you put them at the top there, and they're by heading. So now it's only going to show me, like, I'm now on the Wednesday heading.
Pamela, Jessica, physical. Take my pet. Faith school and weekly. Charge my Apple pet. Thursday. November 7th. Take up Friday. Take out the garbage. 10
There's a scheduled reminder. See, this is showing me the each day by heading.
Live toggle live regions and live recognition. Toggle headings.
I can go down.
Friday, November 8th. Heading.
I can go down.
Saturday, November 9th.
Well, what's on that day?
Take my water the bamboo. Sunday, November.
Then I'm on Sunday.
30-minute travel time. 9:30 a.m. Church.
And it tells me there's 30-minute travel time.
Emily's baby shop.
And you see how this works. So I have a choice of how I can view these. Compact, the full calendar. So if I like
Add
the full calendar,
events. Saturday.
I
Add.
certainly can go
Search.
back and
List.
I can do that.
Single day button.
Now I have other options because I chose compact. Listen.
Single day. Multi-day. Selected. List. Button. Dismiss context menu.
Right.
Button.
So if I want to go back to
Selected.
multi-day,
Dismiss contact. Add.
and then I want to
Search.
go
Multi-day. November. Multi-day. Button. Tuesday. 5 a.m. 6 a.m. 7 a.m.
Now what I have is a view of the days by hour.
8 a.m. 9 a.m. 10 a.m. Joseph Thompson.
Right.
November.
And the hours that have something.
Search. Button.
Then
Tuesday. 8 a.m. 1 p.m. Tuesdays with TTJ. HTTPS.
right.
Slash.
Then the hours that have something, it'll show that. We can go back to list again.
Add. Search. Multi-day. November. Multi-day. Button. Selected. Multi-day. List. Button.
We can choose
Dismiss
list.
contact events. Add events.
Now,
Election day.
let's see.
Invitation. Add. Search. Button. List. Button.
Check it out.
Selected. List. Select. Dismiss. Single day. Selected.
Right.
List.
And so
button.
if we
Dismiss context events.
any of these
Election
that we
day.
choose. Now another thing up at the top.
November. Back button.
Remember, I can go back to that.
2024. Back button.
And so now what I'm seeing is now
months. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
the original view that we had with each day. If I go into landscape.
Charge port to the left.
Sunday. My phone is turned sideways kind of now. At the top left, what is the new top left, right?
Sunday, August 2nd, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m.
Look at how much I'm seeing here. But
Thursday,
also,
August 6th, Monday, 6 a.m.
Look at all that. I mean,
Saturday,
and
Wednesday,
the thing about
Sunday,
that view is
Sunday, Thursday.
That's really going to be better on the iPad, in my opinion. But you have a lot more stuff showing up here. And let me just see if I can even find. Let's just like double tap. What date am I on here? That's a weird. Okay, we'll just double tap on. And I got a back button and somebody's birthday. This is a very, very how do I put this? It will be overwhelming if you're not aware of what you're looking at, and even if you are, it's a totally different view. And the only thing this is going to give you is it's going to give you the ability to swipe left and right with three fingers, like
week of January 22nd,
to move week by week.
Week of January 17th, week of January 12th.
And it also gives you an option in the rotor called events.
Events.
See?
Live recognition.
There's live recognition.
Events.
Events. Now if I swipe up and down with one finger.
Sunday, January 13th, church, take my pill pack the library books. Monday, January 14th, take my pill. Tuesdays with TTJ.
All these events that are in there, you can go from event to event using the events rotor. For our iPad students, that's going to sound a bit familiar to you, right? It's similar, not exactly, but very similar to what you see on the iPad when you're in landscape mode. Go back to portrait, hold the phone up.
Portrait, months, January 2543.
And I want to go back to
toolbar, today, button, months, today, Monday, November 4th, events.
And so
button,
now we're back
search, list, button,
to what we're used to.
2024.
So it's pretty easy. Actually, it's very easy once you learn. You can try these different options, whatever works best for you. Multi-day, single day, list. You can go back, because when I double tapped on these dates, it would open or select a date. I can get a bigger view by going back, and I can always use the search option. So
search button, search field is editing, search, insertion point at start search.
All right, my wife has a baby shower. My wife and daughter are going to a baby shower this week for a friend of ours, and so let's just type shower. Oops. Okay. Now I've got shower typed in there.
Events, Emily's Sunday, November 10th. Heading, Emily's baby shower, 1 p.m., 4 p.m.
And there it is. And so that's how easy it is to use the search field. And somebody tells me, I'm going to guess who that is, but I don't want to. Listen to this message from Cliff about our business lunch, everybody. Ready?
Cliff, make sure you're paying law 2.
Make sure I'm paying. How about that? Let's give him a custom emoji tap back here.
Face rolling on the floor laughing.
That's what we're going to give him.
Emoji search hidden.
Okay.
Messages. Cliff, I have a Cliff. I have a spy. Cliff. Today too. Cliff. Heading Cliff. Make sure you're paying. Lol. You reacted with face rolling on the floor laughing. 246.
Okay. And it looks like I did. And I got a message there.
Actions available. Message received from Cliff. Cliff reacted okay and to hey guys.
Okay. So there you go. So that was another. Okay. So these are, that was just a little side trip, but that's fun.
In the past, you had to have a Gmail account to have YouTube. But more recently, I was playing around with some stuff and I went to go create a Gmail account. And the first question that asked me is, do you want to create a Gmail account or do you want to use a current email address? So I played with it and I put a current email address. And lo and behold, it let me use an iCloud email to sign up for or to watch YouTube, to even sign up for a Google Voice number. The only reason I would have had to create a Gmail account is if I wanted to use Gmail's email. But as for watching YouTube and creating or having a Google Voice number, I did not need a Gmail account.
So you are specifically talking about YouTube?
Yes.
Does it work for any other arena?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, is that's particular to YouTube?
But yeah, like Google Docs or any of the other stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't
Anything
play
else?
with that part. I do know that I was able to create, because they have a service called Google Voice. You can get a free Google Voice number, and I did not have to have a Gmail address for that. The other thing I wanted to point out, and you didn't go into it, but again, if they've been paying attention to what we've been teaching about the predictable patterns, they'll be able to figure out on their own. And that is, when you go into create a custom event, you can select something that repeats a couple times a week within the same week and choose the days you want that event to repeat on. For instance, I have another entity that I'm involved with that has a chat every Friday and Saturday, and I'm able to pick Friday and Saturday for that event to repeat both those nights within the week. You have to pick weekly, then you can pick the days. But they still haven't fixed the thing about, every 2 weeks or every second and fourth week, because as you know, there's 5 weeks in some months, and if you pick every other week or bi-weekly, that month where there's 5 weeks, it's going to land on that month, so you have to actually go manually in there and change it. I actually just had to do that on the event that I have that is every 2 week, or that is every second and the fourth Thursday, and I had to go in there and move it up a week because October had 5 weeks in it.
And I think that is the key. You really do have to just play around with it, because it's going to be different for each person, possibly, what you're trying to do. And so it's spending some actual quality time with it. The other place I would encourage you to spend some quality time is in the actual settings for the calendar, under settings and then apps and then calendar, because again, you can customize default alert times, and not just in a general sense, but for different kinds of events, for birthdays, for all day events, all these things. And you can customize the default duration for events. You can do, there's just a lot of stuff you can do under your settings,
For all you, it's a bad word in here, but I'm going to say it. For all you Windows users, what Matt was talking about, when you have a picker and a button in the same one, Matt, on the Windows side, they call that a split button, just in case you didn't know.
Oh, I did not know that.
So, you didn't have us unmuted, so I couldn't interrupt you and ask you. So what would you say to the people? Now, I know the answer. But what would you say to the people that feel that they have to download Calendly and use the new one that just came out for Windows,
Fantastico.
Yeah, Fantastico. So what would you say to the people that want to use Fantastico because it's accessible on Windows, Apple devices and stuff like that, even though you and I both know, and Sarah, because we use this stuff every day, that the Apple Calendar does what it's supposed to do. People are so geeked about, because you can have multiple calendars come into one place, which of course Apple can do that too. But what would you say to people about those third-party calendars that they think they need?
Yeah, there's no right or wrong. You can do whatever you want. But my philosophy always has been, why reinvent the wheel? When Apple provides such incredible features and functionality in their apps, and you have the added integration of what, everything in the Apple ecosystem. So whether I'm using a HomePod, a watch, in some cases an Apple TV, maybe not for the calendar, but different things. It makes sense to use these first party apps, and they really do work well, and they're very accessible, and they offer compatibility with other platforms across the board. You can even go to iCloud.com and do this stuff even if you're not on an Apple device. But
I think it comes down to what we've always said. People who think they need these third-party apps that it makes thinks the grass is greener on the other side. I've always been told the water bill's always higher if you do that. But it's just the fact that they don't have the proper training, and we've talked about that, and that's one of the reasons why you started these free courses. So
that's the big part of it. For all of the talk, which I don't think it's many of our students doing the talking, but there are some other places where you hear a lot of talk about, anti-competitiveness and all that nonsense. It really baffles me because Apple is so welcoming. You can submit anything to the App Store. I mean, they could easily say, we're not accepting calendar apps because we have a calendar built into iOS. You don't need another one. But they don't do that. They allow people to develop these third-party calendar apps, and you can use them if you prefer to use them. But to me, everything you need and more is available in these native apps, and you have the added benefit of the integration that is just unmatched between the hardware, software, and services. So take care, everybody, and see you next time.
Thanks for joining today's session. Didn't get your question answered? Have an additional comment or feedback? Email us info@ttjtech.biz or info@stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with a U. That's STURITUP.com. Or check out our websites for additional resources. That's ttjtech.biz or stiritup.com. And remember, subscribe to the newsletter when you're there. That way, you don't miss out on any upcoming announcements or events. Thanks for joining us. God bless, and see you next time.